Madam President, I'm delighted to stand today shoulder to shoulder with all my colleagues on the Veterans Affairs Committee in the House and the Senate to thank the Senate yesterday for a very strong vote on cloture, to take us to the point today where we'll pass the VA Mission Act, which is us as a legislative body fulfilling a promise to those who fought and sacrificed for each of us to be here today, our families and our loved ones as well. For years, there have been problems at the VA in terms of health care. You've read the headlines, I read them too, and our constituents read them. In Arizona, we had veterans who died waiting to get an appointment, a routine appointment. We had scheduling errors. We had people getting bonuses for scheduling things they falsified. We had a lot of things that were disappointing to all of us. And we've worked hard in the Veterans Affairs Committee in the House and Senate to address head-on these tough issues and fix them so that the VA would be the best functioning health delivery system it could possibly be for the people who were willing to risk their entire life for each of us when they've joined the military. I think it's appropriate we're doing it the week before Memorial Day. Next Monday, we'll all celebrate all those who in all the wars that preceded the fight we have today, who represented our country, volunteered unselfishly, fought, and in some cases died for America's peace, freedom, liberty, and the perpetuation of our democracy. One of the promises we made to them was that we would have good quality health care and it would be accessible. 4 years ago, with the leadership of John McCain, we started the movement towards veterans' choice. We passed a good bill with a 40-mile rule and a 30-day rule. The 40-mile rule said if you lived more than 40 miles from a VA clinic or service, you could go to a closer clinic than the private sector as long as it's approved by the VA. The 30-day rule said if you couldn't get an appointment for a routine medical service, in 30 days you could make an appointment in the private sector and the VA would approve it. But the labyrinth of approval processes for that 30-day appointment or that 40-mile access made it almost impossible for the veteran in many cases to get the access as timely as we'd like it to be. It was a good start. It was an improvement in our process. It addressed the problem, but not well enough. But we learned enough as a test bed. Know that veterans liked choice, as long as it was not so cumbersome they couldn't use it. And the VA liked choice, as long as they were a partner with the veteran who made the choice, so we lost no continuity of health care. So we were repealing with the passage of the Mission Act both the 30-day rule and the 40-mile rule, and instead saying the following. If you're an eligible veteran for VA health care services, and you can choose a private sector doctor if you want to, as long as the conditions and circumstances in concert with your VA primary care doctor fit. In other words, the VA needs to know about it, work with you in making that decision, and work with you in finding that private doctor. But we're not going to have mountains of paperwork and third-party administrators coming in and breaking all these rules, regulations, and slowing the thing down. Instead, it's going to be the VA is going to be motivated to see you, the veteran, get fast and timely service, quality health care, whether it's private or whether it's the VA. There have been some who talked about this being privatization. It is not privatization. It is mobilization. We're mobilizing health care for the veterans to see to it they have access in a timely fashion. The VA is an instrumental service to our veterans who come home. Many of them come home with injuries and sicknesses and illnesses and diseases that, quite frankly, nobody ever contemplated people surviving. Who heard of PTSD and TBI 20 years ago? Who saw veterans lose arms and legs, in some cases all of the arms and legs, and survive a battlefield wound? How many of you have seen people wear eye prosthesis where they had an eye replaced? The VA has specialties that can do all of those things, the best in the world. So we deliver high-quality health care and high-quality rehabilitation to veterans with the most serious injuries in the history of warfare. And we'll continue to always do that. But we also have to understand that when health care in the private sector can be utilized for the convenience of the veteran, not as a competitor to the VA, and we can use it as a force multiplier to lower the number of people we have to hire in addition and lower the number of hospitals we had to build, instead of provide those money for services to our veterans, that it's a win-win-win proposition for the VA and for all of us. It's no secret why every former VA secretary that served this country has endorsed the USA mission bill. All of them have endorsed it, every one of them. Republican appointments of Republican or Democratic president, they all know this is something we've needed to do for a long time. It's no secret why we got a vote of 91-4 yesterday on the floor of the United States Senate to invoke cloture and go to a vote today on the VA Mission Act. It is past time that we made sure our laws for health care available to our veterans were as high quality as our veterans are when they go to fight wars for us. Secondly, I want to focus on another feature which to me is very important because I was in the service. I was not in Vietnam, but I'm a Vietnam-era veteran. I was in the Georgia National Air National Guard during the Vietnam War, and I know all my buddies. I lost buddies in that war. And I know a lot of our soldiers sacrificed in that war and made it home with terrible injuries, but because of our health care delivery system in the battlefield and at other hospitals around the world, we were able to save veterans and rehabilitate them. But the need for ongoing medical health care for the basic essentials of life is sometimes one of the byproducts of some of the injuries and to some of those who survive those wounds. There are veterans who have difficulty feeding themselves. There are veterans who can't dress by themselves. The veterans who need assistance in the 5 basic essentials of life, and then from time to time they have to call in a caregiver. There are spouses and moms, in some cases dads and brothers and sisters, who come and deliver those services to their brother or sister or son or daughter. If they're a veteran of almost any era but Vietnam, they get caregiver benefits from the VA for a stipend for that benefit being provided by that volunteer to help that veteran. It helps the veteran to be able to pay for the service, but it helps the VA to not have to go out and find people to do it because there's so many who want to offer their caregiver. Well, we're expanding the caregiver services in the VA now to all veterans. So finally, the Vietnam-era veterans and their families will be as eligible as anybody else who's entitled to VA benefits. Patty Murray of Washington, Susan Collins of Maine, a lot of members of this chamber today deserve credit for that. We fought for caregivers for a long time. It's a big step forward, and for many it's going to be a lifesaver and a life extender, and remove just one of the major burdens that some have to care for a spouse or a loved one injured in battle or who fought for us. And I can go on and on and on about detail after detail after detail in this bill, but I don't want to bore everyone. But I want everybody to realize when they go home this weekend how important it is to tell them what we've finally done. We finally dealt with the accessibility of health care to our veterans. There's going to be no more headlines of veterans dying because they can't get an appointment, because they're going to be able to get an appointment. They're going to be able to make the choice with the VA of that appointment. Not going to be a case anymore where a veteran is going to die because they can't get a basic service to stay alive at their home. They can't they don't have the money to pay for a caregiver, therefore they languish and are unable to feed themselves or clothe themselves or live in a sanitary condition. That's the very least we owe to our veterans. And today, when you cast your vote for the VA Mission Act, you'll do just that. Now, I want to address some individuals, if I can, and thank them. One, I want to thank John McCain, whose idea this was originally. A great hero to all of us, a friend to all of us, one we love and pray for today as he recovers from cancer. But John is the one that started the movement toward choice, and he deserves the credit for it. I want to thank all those secretaries that have worked with us over the past 3 or 4 years to get to the point that we're able to pass VA choice today. But I tell you who I really want to thank. I want to thank all those veterans who sacrificed and died for us in the wars before now. The reason we enjoy our freedom and you, Madam President, can preside freely without fear of retribution. I can say what I think without fear of retribution. Our constituents can gather in the gallery here and listen to what we've got to say, protest if they wish. We have a Constitution and 10 basic amendments, the first 10, our Bill of Rights, that give us everything. But who protected that gift are our veterans. It's not a stretch to remember that had it been in World War II a different outcome, I might be speaking Japanese or German today, not English. But because of our veterans, because of our soldiers, they fought in the Battle of the Bulge, they fought in the Pacific. My father-in-law flew reconnaissance in the Pacific. My brother-in-law flew A4s in Vietnam. If those vets had not risked their lives and really offered their lives in exchange for our liberty and freedom, we wouldn't be enjoying this today. So we owe no less than the Mission Act to our veterans, and I am proud to be a part of it and proud of my committee and my committee members who've done so much to help us. So let me just say thank you to my colleagues for your vote yesterday. I urge you to vote today for passage of the VA Mission Act, and it's an honor to serve our country as a member of the United States Senate. It's our honor to be American. May God bless our country, and I yield the floor.